Hello everyone and welcome. My name is Roberto Corona. I am an Italian anthroposopher and astrologer, and in this video we're going to talk about Jupiter's ingress in Cancer and the aspects it's going to make with the slower planets. So as we know, Jupiter changes sign once a year, giving it a specific color, so to speak, and in this case it will stay in Cancer from June 9, 2025 to June the 30th, 2026. So as we will see, its ingress in Cancer won't be an easy one, since it will activate by square the Saturn-Neptune conjunction, which we talked about in a dedicated video. So as always, let's try first and foremost to understand the forces of Jupiter in Cancer. Now, first of all, Jupiter in Cancer is in the sign of its exaltation, which means that Jupiter is quite strong here and can fully express itself in this zodiac sign. In fact, Jupiter is the planet of trust and sense of belonging, and in Cancer, the zodiac sign of family, it gives a nice boost to these significations. On top of that, Jupiter is a planet connected to ideals and the higher mind. So when it transits through a sign, it invites us to rethink issues in general, also trying to deepen the true meaning of things. Now, this means that Jupiter in Cancer brings attention to family issues as well as family policies, all that, of course, in favor of families in general. Another important topic is that of motherhood, or in more geopolitical terms, we could say the demographic issue linked to the decline of births. Now, due to Cancer is not only the family signification, but also that of the nation, which in a certain sense is an extension of the concept of family itself. In fact, in mundane astrology, Cancer represents the motherland, and since Jupiter is the planet of ideals, we could witness a further increase in nationalist feelings, also caused by the destabilization of the world geopolitical balances. Homeland and family then, but not only those. In fact, Cancer also signify the peoples in general, and Jupiter in Cancer, for this reason, could lead us to have to resolve issues connected precisely to the masses, to the peoples. And in this regard, our thoughts goes immediately both to the Ukrainian and Palestinian people, as well as in general to the migratory issues connected to the wars. Now, why is that? Because one of the main Cancer significations is that of protection, and this means that Jupiter in Cancer will try to help those who do not have this protection. Now, in this sense, we're talking about the immigrants, displaced people, the homeless, that Jupiter will try to help. And we also want to note that houses are one of the most important symbols for protection. And this means that Jupiter in Cancer also brings attention to real estate issues that need to be addressed, also from an economic point of view, such as the interest rate on mortgages or the cost of mortgage credit and so on. All issues that are connected to families and consequently to the demographic trend of nations. From a spiritual point of view, the tropical sign of Cancer is nowadays overlapping on the starry image of Gemini. Now, in astrosophy, the constellation of Gemini is very important because it is connected to the process of awakening of the I consciousness through the impact, the clash, so to speak, with reality, and the confrontation with our shadow self, our double, or in other words, our evil twin, so to speak. Now, what does that mean? It means that Jupiter in Cancer is addressing all the issues we mentioned to highlight their shadow sides. So the shadow of the family, the shadow of the people, and the shadow of the nation itself. This way we can awaken and also avoid being swallowed up by dysfunctional group dynamics that, especially in the age of Michael, must be overcome to affirm our individual self. Here we can see the chart for Jupiter's ingress into Cancer, scheduled for June 9th. And as you can see, we have the overlap with the stereo image of Gemini. So this is Jupiter entering the zodiac sign of Cancer. And behind, in the background, as you can see, we have the spiritual stereo image of Gemini. Now, the chart features a beautiful mutual reception with the moon in Sagittarius. That's the moon, and the moon is in Sagittarius. That is, the moon is in the sign of Jupiter, and vice versa. Jupiter is in Cancer, which is the sign of the moon. So this is a mutual reception, and this is a beautiful configuration. And on top of that, we also have a beautiful sextile with Venus in Taurus, this blue line here, connecting the two benefics. Now, both of these configurations will help to address the elephant in the room. I am talking about the square between Jupiter in Cancer and the Saturn-Neptune conjunction that we have here in Aries. And this is, in fact, the most important aspect of the transit of Jupiter in Cancer. We have basically two important aspects made by Jupiter in Cancer. So here you can see a time map of Jupiter transits throughout 2025 and 2026, respectively. So in red, we have Jupiter making a square with both Saturn and Neptune, respectively, during the month of June. Whereas in November, in green here, we have Jupiter making a trine aspect with Saturn. And this is because Saturn will have returned momentarily back to Pisces from September to February. Now, in particular, the trine will be partile at 25 degrees of Cancer and Pisces, but it will not perfect, not 100% perfect. This is because the two planets will remain just 16 minutes apart. So this is very interesting because even though it is a partile aspect, this is not going to be 100% complete. So let's now see the meanings of these two aspects, because during 2026, as you can see, we have nothing important happening. And in late June, Jupiter is going to enter Leo. So these aspects refer to the next video for the transits of Jupiter through Leo. So let's take a look at these aspects, starting from the square between Jupiter and the Saturn-Neptune conjunction, which is the most important aspect of the two. So as we have already said in the video dedicated to this conjunction, I'll leave you the link in the description. Saturn's attempt to erect borders, limits, and blocks will tend to fail due to the conjunction with Neptune, and this is good. However, these tensions will unfortunately build up precisely because of the square with Jupiter, which will create a sort of pressure cooker effect. In fact, on the one hand, Jupiter increases the aspect of protection and therefore also of protectionism on the part of individual states to protect their own internal market. On the other hand, however, Jupiter also increases the need for protection and economic security for the people. The same security that the tariffs are putting at risk. And this will lead to a quite unstable scenario right in June, which is rather close to the reintroduction of the tariffs with Europe scheduled for July 7. We also want to remember that in July, the trine of Uranus and Pluto enters an orbit of 4 degrees, so it's going to be activated since July. And since this trine represents popular protests and revolts, most likely we will have a very fiery and intense summer. On the contrary, the trine between Jupiter and Saturn is quite promising, since Saturn will have temporarily returned to Pisces until February 2026. And why is it promising? First of all, because it is a trine, which is a good aspect, but also because Saturn in Pisces is ruled by Jupiter, because Saturn will be in Jupiter's sign. And Jupiter is a benefic planet, meaning that Jupiter is going to have the upper hand, so to speak. Now, what does it mean? It means that the crisis that we mentioned before during summer most likely is going to see a positive turn in fall with new and more lasting, hopefully, agreements. In fact, the trine between Jupiter and Saturn will take place precisely between October and December, and during these months, the conjunction between Saturn and Neptune will have loosened. However, what happens in the meantime? Again, the trine between Uranus and Pluto, which means that this compromise also comes from the fact that the popular revolt movements will have been heard. As always, if you want to support my work, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell not to miss out on future astrological insights. I am Roberto Corona. See you in the next video.